Hello and welcome to another episode of the Story Driven Podcast. Today we have a very special guest with us, Amanda Escarcega, who is a transformation coach who helps women move past self-sabotage, limiting beliefs, and trauma to a place of health, holistic health and wellness, both outside through diet and exercise, so the physical health, but as well as internal health, health of body, spirit, and mind. And so Amanda's journey she really exemplifies through the journey that she has taken through her life, growing up in a household that, like many of us, had, how do we say this? How do we talk about trauma in a way that also that doesn't cast blame on those, but rather finds forgiveness for the whatever family situations, whatever situations we found ourselves in growing up that led to emptiness, that led to bad habits, that led to self-loathing. So this is the topics that we're getting into today. Going from a household where she was moving from place to place, dealt with a family who struggled with addiction, to then finding forgiveness, finding love within herself, as well as habits to go from unhealthy situations like drinking and partying and being in a place that was really empty, to a place of not only transforming her own life, but now being able to help transform others and to live in her purpose. I hope you enjoy. We are here to tell stories, Amanda. And I'm so stoked to have you on the podcast today because your story, what an inspiration, what a story that honestly exemplifies that no matter what our past, where we've come, what we've gone through, the struggles the adversities we've faced, that we ultimately have the power in the present to like rewrite our story. And through your story, I really felt that you were a shining example of just that possibility for all of us. In particular, as a health coach, as both in exercise and really just all around. And maybe you can clarify for me and for our audience, specifically who it is that you often help and how you help them.
So it's kind of hard to pinpoint what we do sometimes, right? And for me, the best way that I can describe what I do is I'm a transformational coach, and who I help is anyone that wants to have a transformation in their life. Because I've had many transformations through my own life. I've had physical transformations, I've had mental transformations, I've had belief transformations, and it really is a mindset. We can do so many things, and we're so capable of accomplishing anything that we want in this life with the right mindset, and also with the attention and prioritizing that one area of our life. So we can't do all of it at the same time, but if we have an idea about where we want to start, then you just kind of start layering on the different transformations that we can go through. But
Mm.
but for me, it started with a physical transformation. I needed to do that first before I did anything else, because
Mm-hmm.
it's something that I could see and it's something that I had control over. And
Mm.
so, with a physical transformation, I didn't have a lot of control over the things that took place in my childhood, right? Like I didn't have control over. Um,
Yeah, like actually, just going into your story, if you could trace back to those plot points that you felt like those critical moments or just aspects of your upbringing that you felt like put you on the path to caring so much about now transformative coaching, health, wellness, exercise, dieting, things of those nature.
Yeah, so I didn't feel good growing up. Like I shared with you, before.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of internal turmoil that I felt, and didn't know what those feelings were growing up. But um, there's just a lot of unease, right? Like there was a lot of uncertainty, of not knowing where I was going to live or who was going to be taking care of me or what school I was going to be going to, if there was going to be food. Like there was just a lot of uncertainty. So as I got older, I was forced to be out of the house and start working by 17, 18 years old. And I really didn't have a lot of time to think about my purpose or what I was really passionate about or what I wanted to go to college for. It was more so I had to hurry up, get a job, put a roof over my head, put food in my mouth, and just start working. Like there wasn't a lot of time to think about anything.
Mm,
So in my 20s, I didn't feel good. I was just kind of going through the motions. I was already kind of caught up, and they call it the rat race, right? I was just trying to make the money, and I didn't feel very good about my life, and I kind of got caught up in drinking a lot and really trying to balance out the I guess the misery of life, or
hmm
the unease kind of a feeling that I had with trying to feel good. And so, with the easiest way to do that, that I knew of, was like going out, partying, drinking, kind of trying to run away from my problems, escape my problems. And I kind of tried to balance it out with health and fitness. As weird as that might sound, I tried to also eat healthy. So I'm eating healthy, I'm getting into exercise, I'm kind of living that healthy lifestyle, or at least getting into the healthy lifestyle of wanting to feel better and trying to do it that way,
mm,
but also kept with the drinking. And so there was this conflict. It was like trying to go left and right at the same time. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely resonate with that struggle, in my own ways. I think for me, and from my specifics growing up, I did have a single household, and I was blessed to have um, you know uh, parents there to support but with my brother with with special needs. I often found myself still struggling to feel like that. Just to feel good. It was about that. It was like and I feel like everyone has that to varying degrees, right? And it's like, I know for you and your story that I mean the struggles that you went through, some people just couldn't imagine. So not knowing where to, like, when with like food and having a situation with parents like not really even being around. That to me is like, I can't imagine that. And yet each of us, just everyone goes through traumas to varying degrees, and I do feel that, like, those defense mechanisms, for me, of like finding drinking or finding vices and finding ways to like deal with it, um, were really, not a true solution to the root of the problem. And so I'm curious now, realizing, you've now started to get into exercise. What was it about exercise and eating healthier that started to capture your attention, and where you shifted your focus towards that?
again, like I was just trying to feel better. I didn't really understand a lot of things within myself. I was really young, like I said, didn't have a lot of time to really figure things out, but I knew that those were things where I could start to take care of myself. So the whole thing of self love kind of starts to come in, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
shared with you before, my mom, there's a particular story, and I love my mom so much. Like I love her, and she did the best that she possibly could with raising me. She was dealing with her own challenges, her own upbringing, her own traumas, and so I love my mom to death, and she did the best that she could. And I just want to preface that by saying, preface this story by saying that. But my mom went to prison when I was 11 years old, and my grandmother couldn't take care of me because she thought that she had cancer. She had a really low white blood cell, or high white blood cell count,
Wow.
so they couldn't figure out if she had cancer, and if she did, where was it. So she couldn't take care of me when my mom went to prison. And so my grandmother sent me to San Diego, which is where I am now, to be raised by my dad's sister, who's my aunt. And
Mm.
so she took full custody of me, and she raised me from 11 years old on. And every summer, every once in a while, I'd go back and see my mom when she got out of prison.
Oh.
So one summer I went back and I was visiting my mom, and I could tell when my mom had been using drugs. So my mom started with cocaine, which was a gateway drug, and she started using other drugs. She was using meth a lot. And
Oh.
so when I went to go visit her one summer, I was like, "Mom, I can tell that you're using drugs. Like I can see it in your eyes. I can see it in your face." And she goes, "Well, if you don't like it, I'll send you back to California. This is my life. I'm going to do what I want." And so to me, I felt like she was choosing the drugs over me. She was
Mm,
choosing that over
mm,
me there spending time with her. And so, what I made that mean as a kid was if my own mother doesn't want me, or if my own mom doesn't want to spend time with me, who else would love me? Like, who else would, if I'm not worthy of my own mother's love, then who else, would love me? And so I really just wanted to begin to love myself. And that,
mm,
I think, was the journey of me really getting into health and fitness and wellness, because it was a way for me to show my self love. And also it was a way for me to help myself to feel better.
mm,
But I didn't see the act of self love did a lot for me, but I don't think that it made a huge difference when it came to eating well because, like I said before, I was going left and right at the same time. I'm drinking every day of the week, but I'm eating a really healthy diet. So
mm,
there was still the depression, there was still the anxiety when I was home and not hanging out with friends, not socializing. But the running was really a way for me to run off that the feelings of like anxiety, depression. It was almost like an escape when putting those running shoes on, going for a run. Like the world did not matter, nothing mattered. It was
yeah.
just me and the pavement and my music, which all those things are really escapisms, right? Running, exercise can be an escape. Music
Hmm.
can be a heavy form of escapism.
Yeah.
And then obviously, of course, the alcohol, socialization, going out constantly needing to be with other people. So those were all ways that I was dealing with and trying to deal with things in a healthy way, but not completely really understanding myself just yet. And that was at like 25 years old when I started to get into health and fitness and wellness.
That, I think that there was a profound, I mean, what you just shared. Thank you so much for sharing such a personal story from your past. And I do think that there's so much in that story of that transformation that you went through. That really is just, there's so many lessons there from how you took, a situation where that self-love, really, there was that feeling or that void, that you started to find ways of healing through self-care, through acts of, I think that it's just so, like, just those simple acts of self-care, taking care of yourself, doing actions to show yourself love through the actions that you are doing, the habits that you're partaking in, and how you're treating your body with exercise and food. I just think there's a profound journey that I can see why you're a transformational coach, because you've been through it, and you understand. I think what I'm sure your clients are often going through, where it sounds like for you, you realize that it's a decision there. You can decide to either cope with what's happened with the past, with those feelings of lack of self-love and or self-sabotage, all the things that come with that. You get to choose what habits, right, how to escape, whether it's the drinking, whether it's the overeating, or whether it's on the other end of that, this, choosing to run, which literally there's a thing called a runner's high.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so there's the different drugs. So it's a matter of choosing to the ones that are in alignment with caring for yourself, is really what I feel like in your story is really sticks out to me as what makes you a one of a kind coach, when you can truly understand what others have been through, down to that core inner conflict of that, the self-love journey.
But I will say, Evan, like None of that really made a difference for me. So that was the beginning of me getting into health and fitness and wellness. I took so many courses, personal development courses and classes and books. I had countless books, and I was really looking for the solution, but
Mm-hmm.
none of it made a difference, to be honest with you. It was
Hmm.
all a temporary solution, because I was trying to solve things on a surface level.
Okay.
So the books, the workshops, the seminars, the food, the running, all of it was temporary. I never felt like it was a permanent fix. I never felt like it was, okay, I have it figured out. Now I'm to a place now where I do love myself and I do understand myself, and the trauma is not something that I'm dealing with on a daily basis anymore. It wasn't until I was 34 that the real transformation happened, where I
Hmm.
actually overcame all those things and it actually all came together and made sense. So it wasn't an almost until 10 years later.
Oh wow. Okay, so it was quite, and this is also the way that I view healing, is like healing is a lifelong journey. I'm still healing from. For me, the trauma often came from, I would say, my not from in terms of sort of feeling rejected from my parents per se, but for me it was more on the social side of things. Like moments through my life of feeling rejected by my social group, or by
Mm,
my even friend, my closest friends, during a moment in my senior year where I took an antibiotic that put me into a downward spiral of mental health. Like my completely took my I thought I was going crazy, and so like I also faced
mm,
those same, and I will say that I am still to this day, I will say, like, it's a daily struggle for me. Those feelings come up of the insecurities, the feelings of, are people still looking at, like, laughing at me behind my back? Are
mm,
people still like talking about me, and like kind of like tearing my name down in other rooms?
mm,
Because there was that, so much of that that I felt, I sensed, and I experienced, that like that feeling of betrayal from those that you thought were closest to you, that you thought loved you like you loved them. So I'm curious how you overcame that, because I feel like I can benefit from your story here.
So in that stretch from like 25 to 34, so almost 10 years, um, I think that I bounced around and did a lot of things to check boxes and say I did it to help myself to feel better. So
Mm-hmm.
education, like I went to school to be a CNC, so I became a certified nutritional consultant. I went on to UCSD, to their extension program, to become a internationally board certified lactation consultant to help moms with breastfeeding. And the
Wow.
intention there was to help us raise healthier future generations. And the only way for me to do that is to educate moms in the importance of breastfeeding and help them to actually breastfeed their babies. But because I didn't become a mother and I thought that I would, I felt very disconnected from the work. But still, I had reached the highest level of education that I possibly could in that field. So I
Wow.
checked that box. I invested, thousands and thousands of dollars, like I said, going to seminars and things like that. So
Yeah.
I did a lot of things to help me to feel better because I was accomplishing things, but I never stuck with anything and really was committed to this one thing, which was one of the problems that I had. So in this cycle of doing things, accomplishments, eating healthy, exercising, all those things, it wasn't until the pandemic happened where
Mm.
I was left without a job.
Mm.
So I was not applying any of my education that I had in health, fitness, or wellness. And so I was caught in fast money working in nightclubs and at bars, bartending and cocktail waitressing. And
Wow.
so I was doing that, and then the pandemic happened, and I was like, okay, I was really faced with the decision of what do I really want to do with my life? I'm still not happy. I'm still, kind of running away and escaping a lot of the feelings that I had about myself. I didn't feel like I was worthy of a lot of things. I didn't feel like I was worthy of love. I didn't have a lot of self confidence still. Relationships hadn't worked out. I had two failed relationships. So things like that. There was just a lot that had happened. I was like, what do I really, what is it with me? Like, why am I 34 years old? I'm in this place where I'm working in bars and nightclubs. I'm not applying any of my education. I've had failed relationships. Um, what do I want to do with my life? And so I called a friend of mine that was a life coach. And I said, hey, Anthony, like the pandemic has us all in lockdown right now. I'm either going to go take another course or I want to hire you as my life coach. And he's like,
Mm.
Amanda, if you work with me, I'll change your life. And he did.
Wow.
So I started working with him at 34 years old. We still work together to this day. And
Oh,
that
wow.
was a huge, a huge part of me becoming a coach was my experience being coached because
Mm.
my entire life changed hiring a coach. And so I believe in it so much that in being the recipient of that experience, it motivated me to help other people do the same thing through my own transformation.
That is powerful. Mentorship is and coaching is so powerful when you find the right one, the real deal, you know.
Yeah.
And I do feel like the coaching industry, you know, like in recent years, became like extremely saturated. But it's this is the difference, right? Like what meeting someone who's actually walked the walk, been through these struggles to the point where they understand, like you understand the struggle, you know, and it's not just a cash grab situation. It's like I can tell you really genuinely care about helping others through these transformations because you yourself have been, you know, to the pit and out the other side. Um, I'm curious with your coach. What was it that made you realize that that was the coach for you? That was your person to really go with, and who could help you?
I had been watching him for years on Instagram. So I knew his older brother.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all stayed connected through social media for years. And I had reached out to him a few times with questions just about life, and he would
Mm,
always be there to just give advice. And then I knew him through Instagram. I knew his brother, and I trusted him.
mm,
And trust was a big thing for me. And seeing his evolution, seeing
yeah.
him through his transformation and his growth was so consistent. The
Mm,
consistency was very attractive to me, where
yeah.
he was unwavering in who he was, what his message was, his content. He was just always in that growth process. And so he had proven himself
Ah,
to me over the years.
I
Yeah.
see. So it was that consistency, like the showing up, Instagram, all of these are starting to, you know, come together to, you know, be another great topic of conversation because I see you now crushing it on Instagram.
Thank you.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, congratulations. You've amassed quite the impressive organic following.
Thank you.
And so now you're taking those steps to really become that consistent, that coach that others are seeing and seeing your growth and your story.
Yeah.
You know, I'm curious for you. You know, what do you feel differentiates you in terms of your process, in terms of how you coach? What do you feel differentiates you from most coaches out there?
That's a good question. Well, for one, I myself have been through different transformations like we went through before. So I had my own transformation, mentally, physically, changing my belief systems. So these were all areas of transformation for me. And one of the biggest ones actually for me was, and one of the first things that my coach and I addressed when we first started working together is like, Amanda, I strongly um, encourage you to give up alcohol.
Mm,
And I was really reluctant at the beginning. I was like, I don't see the need. I was really fighting him on it. I was like, I don't see the need to really, do that. I think I could do this while can still drink. I was really trying to hold on to it. And
yeah.
and he was very persistent. He's like, I'm not gonna tell you what to do, but I'm every time I spoke to him, he's like, it's like we cannot do this work and really have the transformation that you're looking for if you're still holding on to that thing. So I did give it up. I
Wow.
gave it up, and that's where it was one of the hardest things for me because I had to find things to replace that time that I was using to drink, which was a lot of time. It was at least like a couple of hours a day. Like at, at the end of work, a work shift, you go out and have a few drinks, or during on the weekends, brunch. There was always this, whatever time was left, whatever gaps were left in the week, a lot of that time was drinking. And then not only that, but also the associations that I had and the friendships that I had were all around
Ah.
around drinking. So let's go out and have a drink. And so I had to do two things, well, three things really. I had to actually sit with my emotions. So if I was feeling some kind of way, I couldn't use that as a way to cope.
Mm.
Anytime I was feeling sadness, feeling depression, feeling um, you know confused about the future or anxious about the future, any of those things, I could not turn to alcohol anymore for that.
Mm.
It was I had to, and this wasn't something that I forced, but it just happened naturally, where relationships started to evolve
Oh wow.
because I'm no longer doing this thing that had bonded us and where we found a lot of commonalities. So those relationships eventually just kind of fell off, and I
Yeah.
had to be okay with that. So
Mm.
okay with the relationships that were not built on something that was stronger or was around things that I was looking to where we had common goals and values that were outside of drinking. If we didn't have that, then those relationships ended, and that was hard too. And then the third one that I mentioned was just finding other things to do with that time that was not spent drinking.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
then the other big challenge for me when I first started working with my coach was I decided to leave the country, and so I
Oh.
actually isolated myself for a year. So that was hard because I left everything that I knew, everyone that I knew, everything that I had. I sold everything I owned. I owned two cars at the time. I sold both of them. I sold everything in my apartment, and I bought a one-way ticket outside of the country and
Wow.
to isolate myself so that I could not be influenced by any of the relationships, people coming over, being invited to go do things. I just needed to isolate myself to figure myself out
Mm.
and really focus on the future.
What do you think were like the key mindset shifts for you? Because what I see is like the journey that you've taken is, it sounds like the ideal, like almost like I would doubt that anyone listening to this would be like, that sounds amazing, I want to do that. But for so many of us, we get a little stuck. We get a little hesitant to make those big decisions, to make those shifts, right? I know for me, I've talked about wanting to quit alcohol, and then there comes the next event that's going to be, oh, brewery, or we're going to the winery or whatever, and so it becomes difficult. And with the social circle of peers in their mid 20s, to sort of get away from that sometimes. And so I'm curious, what were those what were those mindset shifts for you that you feel like were your North Star?
So if I say I'm into health and I care about my health, which I do, I
Mm-hmm.
had to look at alcohol as a conflicting action.
Mm.
The way that I viewed it was everything that I do has to be in alignment. And I think, was it Buddha that said, when you think, say, and do, when you what you think, say, and do are in alignment, that's where true happiness is.
Mm.
So everything needs to be aligned. So if I'm drinking alcohol and I'm eating or drinking my green smoothies and eating salads,
Mm.
that for me was a conflicting action. So
Yeah.
I've had to really figure out what, if I say that I want to be healthy and if health matters to me, then I have to eliminate anything that's not in alignment with that. So that was the first thing for me mentally. But I also am very, I don't want to use the word cutthroat, but like if I want to do something, I do it. Like I read a book, and the next day I was vegan for, or I was vegetarian for 2 years, because of a single book. I was like, I've just made the decision. I'm going to do it. This is important to me. And I just go into kind of like an all in kind of mentality where it's all or nothing.
Mm,
And so for me, when I decided to do some of these things, it was just I'm committed to this. This makes sense to me, and also the challenge of it. I think that I really enjoy the challenge of can I do it and proving to myself that I can do it. There's something in that where there's something that I really thrive in a challenge. I like to see if I can do it. I like to challenge myself. So yeah.
nice. No, yeah, same. I think that, you know, for me, it's, you are a reminder. Like we're going to be hanging out soon, and we're going to be going to an awesome event called Coffee and Chill out here in Venice this weekend. I'm so stoked about it.
Yeah,
And
me
it's, and that's like me making that commitment and then following through, like taking action to connect with like-minded individuals who are on that path that I would like to be on, And so I see that, okay, that reminds me, I am making it is it's a daily thing where it's like, it's a practice, you got to commit, you got to show up and make that decision to like, and it can be uncomfortable to say, I'm not going to, okay, no, like, we're going to go and literally dunk ourselves into a bucket of like very freezing ice water.
Yes, I'm down. I'm so excited for that. And I will say, Evan, like in the beginning, I think that when I told people that I didn't drink anymore, there was that pressure where they're like, "Come on, Amanda, come on, just one, come on."
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, we miss the Amanda that drinks.
Yep. I
And-
know a few of those. Like, yep.
but then, if I stayed consistent and I
Uh-huh.
held my ground over time, they started accepting. Okay, Amanda actually doesn't drink anymore.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
so they fought against it in the beginning and then they accepted it, and I think now it's respected. And
Yeah.
now it's kind of going the other way where now I'm starting to see some influence of the people around me,
That's
including my
nice.
clients, where I always make suggestions. I always think, making suggestions and being an example of what that looks like
Mm.
is really important. So now I'm kind of starting to see that rub off on people who are around me where they're considering to stop drinking or they've begun that journey for themselves and stopping drinking. So it's just that evolution of anything. In the beginning, it's there's pushback, and then
Mm.
the stages, but like there's in the beginning there's definitely pushback. But
Yeah.
standing your ground, it's so satisfying walking away, being like, oh, I
Hmm.
held my ground. Like that felt really good.
Yeah, you're taking that stand, and I often say your stand is your brand. That is the how you're that's your part of your legacy. Like those
Yeah.
decisions you made, we don't even realize it often. How we are, whether we like it or not, we are leaders in a sense that our actions speak to the others around us, create ripple effects,
Yes.
and create influence and influencing others to potentially join us or to if we're taking a stand for something, then join us against a very common these common social practices that are unhealthy or that are even though those things are widely socially accepted doesn't necessarily mean that for me I see drinking as a sort of trap. I do see it as a trap, like the more that, and for me, and it sounds like for you too, it came from a place of not only not feeling good inside, but also boredom.
Yes.
Um, and then
Yeah.
not knowing what to do with the boredom, almost fear of boredom, like fear of just like being totally like, well, life is boring right now, and
Yeah.
everyone else is out there having fun. I might as well go join them, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Especially as a teen, growing up, and then when everyone starts to drink through college and those years. For me, I think when I started to really get straight edge, I completely cut drinking. I cut anything like, marijuana or anything like that was when I first started building my business. I had to start
Mm,
saying no because I noticed that I never had time, especially doing a day job. You never have time for those aspirations that it's like one day it's my dream. But in order to actually make it not just a dream, but like an actual goal, there needs to be a plan in place. There needs to be time delegated.
right.
And how are you going to ever do that if all of your time, aside from the 9 to 5, is spent drinking or
Yep.
spent, you know, just
Exactly.
killing boredom,
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
know?
Yeah.
And then the drinking takes it takes an extra day to
Yep.
recover. So
Yep.
it's literally, I was telling this to my buddy recently, like it takes more than it gives.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I did a post on Instagram a couple days ago of just sharing all the things that I accomplished in the first 1 to 2 years that I got sober. So much. I was able to do so much because I had so much more time, so much more energy, so much more clarity. And like, there's just so much opportunity that opened up for me, that I was able to actually capitalize on all those things and accomplish so much. And so it's like you 10x your growth, you 10x
Mm,
your life when you, or at least for me, when I stopped drinking, uh,
mm,
my life 10x, like what I was able to do and accomplish. It's just amazing. And there's a whole, there's this cycle that happens, which is anything that you consume. And that's everything, right? That's what you eat, that's what you drink, it's what you listen to, it's what you see. um, but we'll mainly keep it to the things that we drink and that we eat. When we consume something, it goes into your gut, which is your second brain, which affects and communicates with your first brain.
hmm.
So when you
Oh yeah.
consume alcohol, for example, that goes into your gut, which affects your brain,
Hmm.
which affects your feelings, because that creates a whole chemistry in your brain. So that will affect the way that you feel, which will affect the actions that you take and how you take them, which affect the results that you get in your life.
Hmm.
So it's this chain reaction that happens without realizing it. And we're so sensitive to everything around us, right? So
Oh,
the
oh yeah.
food that you're eating, you can have, for me, I don't eat gluten because of the
Yeah.
way that it makes me feel. It makes me foggy. It just messes with my whole system. So one thing like that, if I have a meal that's full of gluten, it completely messes up my entire day. I can't think right, which affects my energy level, which affects my output, which affects the results that I get in my life. So if we think about how sensitive the body really is on every level, and that's just the things that we're physically drinking and eating. The other layer of that we can't even see is the energy that affects us by the things that we consume. That's conversations that we're listening to,
Oh yeah.
that's things that we're watching on TV, that is the conversations that we're a part of, the rooms that we're in, and the energy that we can actually absorb stress from other people that are in the room. So things like this, if we really pay attention to and protect ourselves, I think that's a whole other layer of self-love, is really protecting ourselves and our health on every single, in every single area. Like, I don't spend a lot of time with people because I know that I'm sensitive, and I have a lot of big goals and aspirations, and I'm also responsible for a lot of people, my clients. So I have to protect not only my energy for myself and my clarity for myself, but I also have to protect that for my clients, to be able to perform for them, to be able to be a stand for them, to be able to continue to be that bird's eye view for them.
Mm.
So, yeah, I just think that I used to be very free with my time, my energy, because I did not realize the impacts that makes, not only on the day, but on the week, the month, the year. It all ripples into the rest of our life.
Yeah. Yeah. And this, oh man, I mean, that is so true. And I'm same, right? And even to this day, it's like I'm trying to find ways of expanding my consciousness to how can I expand to understand more and more and more how invaluable is the present moment, how important, and what are those actions that can be taken to maximize that impact. Really, like we have one life to live,
Yep.
and so it's like it's making less and less sense the more I'm about to turn 29, and I'm like, I've only got maybe 2/3, maybe another, I don't know, 50 summers, hopefully,
Wow,
hopefully.
we're so young. We're both
But
pretty.
I mean, I'm still thinking about it already. I had a quarter life crisis right around COVID. That was like my
We
dark
all
night of
did.
the soul.
Yeah.
yeah, it was bad. And I to this day, it's been like a constant process of like, how can I be more considerate of my time and the impact and the legacy that I'm building, right? Like the brand that I'm leaving through those actions. And so, yeah, I just, I'm so glad we're getting into this conversation, because we don't, I think that anytime we can just meditate on this, um, it opens up possibility of like, well, what is, if we weren't just spending all of our time doing these sort of like on autopilot habits or vices, um, what opens up in terms of the possibility, the impact we could be making for others, the example we could be setting, the books we could be, like the things we can be imparting to make a difference for others.
I think that for me, I don't think I really valued my life when I was doing all the things that I was doing before, because I didn't have a future that I was building into. I didn't have a vision for myself.
Mm,
Without vision, without having a bigger purpose,
mm,
I think from, and I can only speak for myself, my experience and the way that I see things, my perception is, if we don't have a vision, if we don't have a meaning that we have given our life, then we kind of become very frivolous with our time. Like
yeah,
for me, it was just like a YOLO kind of a life, right?
yeah,
Like
a little apathetic too with that. What comes a
a little
little bit of like
apathetic.
a little, almost like a jadedness.
Like I just live for today, like
Mhm.
fuck it. I don't know if we can cuss on here, but just like fuck it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
just I'm
We're
just
adults.
just that kind of that kind of lifestyle where it's just like, I live for today. If I die today, I'm okay with it. That kind of an apathetic kind of point of view.
Yeah,
So for me to completely shift that, and now I do have a vision for my future. Now there's meaning to my life, and I don't believe in um I think that we need to create our purpose. I don't think that we have a purpose that's given to us. I think that we create our purpose. And usually that
yes,
purpose that we create for ourselves, it's
yes,
this rabbit hole of, you have an interest and you go down that rabbit hole of your interest, and you create your purpose around the things that you're just fascinated about, you love talking about. You can talk for hours, on end about that thing. You create your purpose around that. And
yeah.
so having a vision, having something to live for, I think I think everything changes. I think that most people don't have. I think that's the number one biggest problem for people, is they don't have a purpose.
Hmm.
Where the purpose that we have is to get up and go to our 9 to 5 every day. The job that we don't really like, that we just go to pay Mr. Bill and to pay all the bills. Like, that's not a life that you want to give up drinking for.
Yeah,
People
and
will give up their fun time with their friends for what? For me, it was like,
right,
for what? And that's what I talk about with my clients too. It's like, there has to be something that's bigger for you to want to give up some of these things that we're talking about. And
absolutely.
it's worth it.
And it's so hard with today's society, because it's like, I do understand the jadedness. I do understand the apathy
I do too.
of a generation who's being brought up, being told that this is their story, like by the media, by what we, right, like you said, the energies that we consume, the media, like the movies, the what they teach in a school system that was built by the essentially capitalists of our society, like that want employees, that literally
The
were
system,
quoted in saying, like Rockefeller quoted saying he wants to create a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers. And
right?
so, of course, there's going to be that apathy. There's going to be that like, what the hell is this? But it's like, what are we going to decide to do about it? You know?
And that's where courage comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So the courage to start learning how to think, and that was instead of what to think, right? So that's one of the things that I worked on with my coach when we first got together, was instead of telling me everything to do, he
Mm-hmm.
would ask me questions to get me to think for myself, which I wasn't used to that.
Yeah.
I was always told what to think. Just do this. Come
Right.
to work, do these things. We're not interested in your opinions. We're not interested in your ideas. Just
Yeah.
come do the work. And so when I started learning to think for myself and really look at the world for what it is and look at my life and the truth of my reality, looking at myself in the mirror and being honest with myself. And there's a lot of things that people have said to me in the past where it hurt. It hurt. And I had to look back and think about those things and look at the truth in those things that other people have said to me. And also look at the truth of myself when I look in the mirror, be honest with myself. Because you can't build a life on lies. You have to start with, where you're at. Like look at
Yeah.
ourselves. Where are we currently at? So learning to, think for ourselves and have the courage um, to make those scary moves or to do those things do the things that we're scared to do.
Mhm.
It's like the story of the dog that's sitting on the nail where he's howling, but the pain isn't strong enough for him to get off of the nail.
Uh,
When the pain is strong enough, you get off the nail. So to have the courage to go out and to do some of the things, most people don't have the courage because there's so much comfort in the known. There's so much comfort. It's like we're so comfortable in the discomfort of our lives
yeah. Yeah.
that in order to get off of the nail, it has to be uncomfortable enough where you're just like, I hate this. I've had enough. The
Hmm.
unknown sounds like a better option for me than
Yeah.
the misery of the known. And there's
Yeah.
that choice of just like, I'm tired of this. And for me, it was during the pandemic,
Mm.
of getting to that point where life really sucks. We're tired of it. And it's just like, I'm going to make the change. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that like I same situation for me. I basically hit a wall, multiple walls in my life, right? Like getting fired from my first film industry job, and that was a very toxic environment. And realizing I never want a boss again. What am I gonna do? How am I gonna live in this society and literally never want to go into a workplace again? I did not want to have a job. So that was my first wall. Then the next wall was I literally wasn't sure if I was going to be mentally stable because I was going through, I went through the antibiotic that wrecked my gut, as you mentioned before, wrecked my gut biome, and whatever was going on there affected my brain to the point where I literally was looking at myself in the mirror and I didn't know who I was because I was experiencing dissociation. I was experiencing a very rare thing called depersonalization, derealization, which is a very rare. It's an actual disorder that people experience, and there's movies that have been done on it, and even a lot of like the medical industry. Like I was trying to find a psychiatrist, and they didn't even know what I was going through.
Wow.
But there was forums, and I'm finding out. Basically, I didn't know who I literally was dissociating from reality, and like things started to get pretty bizarre. And I've met a few people who've been through this. That's how I know I'm not completely crazy and that I wasn't just going through something that I thought I was crazy and it wasn't even real. I've met now quite a few individuals who've experienced this. And then in 2020, it all came back because when the COVID happened, that sort of isolation, I was burnt out already. And then my business, basically, we got hit with like tens of thousands of dollars in refunds for projects that were no longer going to be able to be done because the world was shut down and we couldn't shoot video. And I was like, how am I, so I really went through it. And what I will say is I'm now looking back, it's crazy how sometimes the hardest times in our life, we don't realize at the time, but they're almost like giving us that if we just keep moving forward, we'll look back at them with gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
I think I look back now at that time with like thinking like it's weird because it was a bad time. I would never want to go through it again, but it's like I feel fortunate to have struggled to those depths mentally, emotionally, so that I could then coming out of that have that perspective of like, okay, what's really important? Because I mean, I'll be honest, I was near suicide. I was contemplating ending my life. When you get to the place where you literally have given up everything, that's also where I got to a place where I've realized when I was, oh my gosh, I have this one life. What was I thinking? And oh my gosh, okay, I've got a correct course. So I'm curious, because I do think that another thing is like we've been through these journeys so others don't have to. Like I like to think of that as like I've been the struggles I've been through. Now I can impart these lessons. I can help others. They don't have to reach these depths of despair. What would you say to someone who is feeling a little lost and would like to have an actionable plan forward to finding out, maybe even they don't know what their vision is yet, and what would that process be like to, would you suggest maybe like habits they could into their day, or just some path forward?
Yeah. For me, the thing that really changed for me was having a morning routine. I was getting up at 4 a.m. every day
Wow.
when the pandemic was on. So 4 a.m. every single day, I would get up. I would read a book that was good for my mind, got me into a good positive place. Have a cup of coffee, study Spanish on Duolingo, and then I would go for a run. And that for me, the reason why I was doing those things was um, it's the first win of the day. So if
Mm,
I set my alarm and I did something that I said I was going to do, that's a win and that builds confidence.
mm,
So getting up first thing in the morning, that's something that most people are not willing to do. I kept my word to myself, so it's a big win for the day. Um, Giving myself something that was positive.
mm,
Um, I needed to feed my brain something that was positive to get me into a good mental state. Um, Studying Spanish was something that I was investing in my growth. So
mm.
it was helping me to build a skill. So just one lesson a day for 5 minutes. Again, these small wins,
Yeah.
small wins. Then going out for a run, I feel good about myself. I just invested in myself. I just did an act of love. I took care of myself. And then there were other things that I was doing after that. But having a morning routine that was
Yeah.
early before the sun came up really helped me to build my confidence
Nice.
and also gave me time to start just thinking too. Like
Mm,
there's nothing happening in the world just yet, right? No one's calling me, no one's texting me, no one's asking for my time. So there's so much alertness first thing in the morning. There's so much clarity in the brain first thing in the morning.
mm.
There's a lot of ideas that start coming. There's a lot of yeah, the just to sit with yourself and to
Yeah.
do
Without
these.
distraction.
Yep,
Yeah. Yeah.
those that was a huge thing for me. So the morning routine. And then the second thing that I started doing is I started to do things that I enjoyed because I didn't, like I said, I didn't have a vision for my future, for my life. I didn't know what I wanted to do, even though I had all this education in health, fitness, and wellness. I wasn't completely sold at that time that that was what I was going to be doing forever because I didn't know how I was going to make a living out of that.
Hmm.
So I was doing things that I enjoyed as a kid. So going
Ah.
back to my childhood, I asked myself, what did I enjoy doing as a kid? I enjoyed roller skating.
Mm.
Loved going to the roller skating rink when I was a kid. So I bought a pair of Moxie skates, and those are if anyone listening, if you know what Moxie skates are, those are like high end brands, suede skates, and
Nice.
I was doing YouTube tutorials, learning how to spin, learning how to skate backwards and transitions and all these things to see if maybe I wanted to do something with skating. Maybe I wanted to open up my own skate brand. Maybe I wanted to get a collective of other skaters together and throw skating events or open up a skating rink or do something in that. So I did skating for a few months and realized it's something I really enjoy, but it's not something I really want to create a life out of, or it's not my future.
Hmm.
So then I started drawing. Drawing is something else that I really enjoyed as a kid.
Oh, nice. Same.
I loved pointillism, really loved
Oh, nice.
um,
Yeah.
pointillism. So I was doing drawings on Instagram for like a minimal fee, like
Oh,
$20, $30. I
nice.
was asking people to send me pictures of their dogs, and I was doing drawings on Instagram. And so I did that for a bit, enjoyed it, but again, not something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So my point is doing things that you enjoy to
Mm.
see if as in your childhood, like going back to what you truly enjoyed as a kid, to see like is there something there? Because there's a lot of truth in when we were kids. we weren't so concerned about other people's opinions or what's going to make us money.
Mm.
We just wanted to do the things that we love to do. And I think
Yeah,
there's a big misconception today as to like you can't make money doing what you love. You have to go out and get a corporate job, or you have to
it
do
really
these,
is.
and you have to do something based on money, when in actuality what I learned is that it's actually the reverse. When you do what you love, the money comes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The money will just come if you just figure out what you know what you love, and there are ways for you to monetize that. But
Oh yeah.
when you love what you do, you're passionate about it, and you have the skill sets, and you stick with it long enough, there are so many different ways, especially in today's world, that you can monetize skills and passions. And so it was a long road to get me back to where I am today with health, fitness, and wellness. Maybe we can leave this for another conversation, but ultimately I did end up coming back to health, fitness, and wellness. But it really came with trial and error, just
Yeah.
doing and actually just being in action.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Mhm.
it sounds like, for you to even taking, sometimes we do need to take a break from the things we love because, for example, with health and fitness, you got to a place where you wanted to explore other passions and then to come back to it. That's very similar to what I did with video production, after COVID. Same thing. I
Yeah.
moved away back to video games, and then I started to get jobs in the video game industry doing consulting, and then came back and brought the experience from there back to video. And with now, I'm also aligned in the health, like healing. And
Yeah.
so I didn't mean to. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Actually, I'm sorry if you weren't. I just
No,
realized
no,
I
that
might have cut
I
you
was
off
going to
there.
say one more thing, which is so health and fitness and wellness is not exactly what I do, right? I do transformational coaching, but
Yeah.
that's a part of what I do, because in
Hmm.
transformation, that is looking at our beliefs, looking at our bodies, looking at
Hmm.
our health, looking. So all those things are now incorporated into what I do, depending on
Hmm.
what area someone wants to transform their life. Even in finances, I mean, I'm making way more money now than I ever did before. So having that transformation with a money mindset, I had a very
Yeah.
broke mindset, lacked abundance in almost every area of my life.
Mm.
So in my own journey, again, over the past like 15 years or so now, going through transformations in money mindset, health, fitness, wellness, belief systems, giving up bad habits, all those things is an accumulation of all those life experiences where everything kind of came full circle for me.
Yeah.
And I incorporate all of those experiences in one thing, which is transformational coaching. Um,
Mm.
so
Mm.
I needed to go through all of that for this to make sense.
Yeah, yeah, I do see that. Sometimes we don't see it when we're in it. With our story, it feels sometimes maybe like we're going off course, but you don't realize that if you're just following your heart and those passions the skills start to stack, and that's what
Yes.
makes you a one of a kind coach or whatever it is you want to do in life. That's what is going to make you one of a kind by following those passions. But the way I see it is, unlike scarcity mindset, which is, oh, I've got to go just do this thing to make money, when we're following abundance mindset, right? Like starting with like love, starting with what we love, starting what is going to make us feel abundant, even in just what we're doing itself.
Yeah.
Um, that's something that like I think it was Alex Hormozy who said, if you can't do it for one day, or if you can't do it for forever, don't do it for one day. And I
Mm,
and I think that really resonated with me because I started to look at the things I was doing throughout my day and said, I've got to want to love to be able to do this forever, because those are the things I'm going to also break down walls to keep doing versus get stuck in a box, or let walls box me in because I'm not loving what I'm doing. And so I'm just stuck.
yeah, and I've heard other people say something similar, where it's what is it that said? It's like the person that loves what they do will outwork. Oh, I forget, how does it go? Basically, like when you love what you do, you're going to outwork the person that's just doing it for the money. Like
Totally.
you
Yeah.
can't
Agreed.
continue, you cannot continue doing something every single day that you don't love. Like the person who
Yeah.
loves it is going to outwork you.
Right.
So you better make sure that you pick something that you truly enjoy, you really love
Absolutely.
it, because then no one can beat you. I mean, you're going to do it. inevitably because you just love it so much.
Absolutely. Amen.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, no, so I mean, it's been. I'm definitely agree that I think we got to get back on for another episode in the future here. I want to keep just showing up to support on your journey, and I believe that you just have. I see such power in your story, and so I just I can't wait to see what's next for you. What is next for you? What's your vision for this next this next year coming up?
Just continue doing what I'm doing.
Perfect.
Continue serving, yeah, continue serving more people. I'm going through an interview process right now to be a big sister in the Big Brother program,
Mm,
which is mentoring for a minimum of a year to a younger girl who's between the ages of 17 to 18. So I'm waiting to get matched with her. We're
wow.
just looking to mentor um, a younger girl that I wish I would have had that growing up, having
Oh,
someone that can instill a good mindset and confidence and perspective. So that's something that's going to be coming up this coming year.
oh,
I'm
that's
also
awesome.
going on my first retreat in December where I'm helping facilitate a retreat, which
Oh,
that's something
amazing.
I'm looking forward to getting into. So I'm learning how to do retreats right now, and hopefully by
Sweet.
next year, the vision is to start doing something in that space. So there's a lot of upcoming things
That's
in
amazing.
the
Yeah,
works.
no.
Yeah,
Yeah,
continue
stoked,
doing
stoked to
doing
hear
serving,
that.
serving women.
That's awesome and a lot of alignment there because I've also been in the retreat space and wanting to expand into that space. So I'm sure we'll be, there'll be adventures to come, I'm excited.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, thank you for being on the podcast, and I'm stoked to see you this weekend at Coffee and Chill. Maybe we could, for next time as well. You had a coffee company. That's like that was like a
Yes.
whole story there that we gotta still get into. Another passion of yours. So
Yeah. Yeah.
right on. Well, thanks, Amanda. Thanks for being on the pod, and I'll see you this weekend.
All right. Thanks for having me on, Evan. I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Story Driven Podcast. And what a story that Amanda had to share. And there's more to the story. So be sure to follow her on socials. I'm going to leave her links in the description, as well as the link to our episode of her podcast that I guested on, where we dove into my story and she asked questions and she really dug into my own transformation, my journey from an unhealthy mind and body to a place of healthiness. Thank you again for joining us, and I hope to see you on the next episode.